Hello and welcome to my beginner tutorial for Luigi's Mansion any percent, specifically the no out of bounds part. Out of bounds really isn't run that much, so if I just say any percent, that's basically what it is. I'd like to start off with a bit of a disclaimer here that I'm not the best at this game by any stretch. I'm not bad, I've been running it for a while and I've learned a lot of strategies, so that's really why I'm making this tutorial. There's only one other tutorial out there and it's pretty dated by now, and there's a different route and a lot of new strategies to show off. Despite not being really the best at this game, I will try to do as good of a job with this tutorial as I can. I'm going to be splitting it into parts. Like, this first part will just be for area 1 since it's a short area. Most of them will not have a whole area in them, but at the end, I plan to combine all of them into one video, and I want to add any corrections or other suggestions that anybody has to add. So, in the end, I think this tutorial would be useful enough to beginners interested in learning to speedrun this game. Another thing to mention before I start the game is the Japanese version of the game is faster and you take less damage, so it's definitely beneficial to be running that over the NTSC-U copy, but I don't have the Japanese copy and I don't really feel like I need it or anything. The game is still perfectly able to be ran on NTSC-U. It's just like a minor time save and Japanese is easier. Now if you want to run the main category of this game, you can't do it from a fresh file, so make sure you already have a file on your memory card with the game beaten, because otherwise you have to go through much longer cutscenes on the beginning, and you have to be on normal mansion, which is significantly slower and a significantly less popular category. Now getting into the actual game here, the first thing you're going to want to do is mash through EGAD's text and select Hidden Mansion because, as I mentioned, Hidden Mansion is much faster. Normal Mansion is a category of its own. When entering the mansion every time there will be a cutscene, so you want to make sure you pay attention to press A to skip that cutscene as soon as you can. And then once you spawn in the mansion, you basically just have to walk up the left side of the stairs and go through the left door. It's a minor thing, but you always want to make sure you go through the left door of the double doors. Luigi's left, to be exact. It's a very slight time save, but it adds up a bit over the course of a run because the door animation for the left door is faster than the right door. Candles are pretty straightforward, but they do require a bit of practice to get them consistently fast. Basically, all I do is when I enter the room, I pull out the vacuum, I aim it slightly up and go back and forth while moving towards the candles. It usually takes them out pretty quickly. And the room itself here is pretty straightforward. You shine the flashlight on the ghosts while they spawn. Like, this is pretty basic stuff. You don't even need to be a speedrunner to know how to catch ghosts. Like, it's the simplest thing in the game. Basically, while you're waiting for ghosts to spawn, you like to spin around because then you're already somewhat facing towards them when they spawn, so you don't have to spin all the way around. It's slightly faster, not by much, but you just like to get fast habits when you try to speedrun a game, of course. Once you catch the last ghost in the room, you want to know where the chest spawns. It's hard to really explain where it spawns, so you just kind of have to see where it spawns and know where you want to be. You want to be just like to the front of the chest, and during the cutscene where the chest spawns, you want to face up towards the chest during the cutscene. But you want to make sure you're not behind the chest because that will waste more time. The reason you want to face up during the cutscene is because if you're facing the chest, you won't ever get the problem where sometimes the chest doesn't open on the first try, but Luigi does the chest opening animation anyway. It doesn't waste much time, but it's still something that's easy to avoid once you know how to do it, so you might as well do that. I'll show an example of the chest not opening later in the video in Neville's room, where I got some recorded examples where I just intentionally made the chest not open a bunch of times. Once you grab the key from that chest, you're off to the second room of the game. So you're off to a good start, but what do you do from here? Well, this is the start of this room. I use a strategy I don't really see anybody else use, but it's my tutorial, so I kind of have to show off what I do. if that makes sense. I basically just go to the left of the drawer where the ghost spawns and immediately turn around, so I'm facing him right when he spawns. So I don't have to do any moving after he spawns. My flashlight is right on him right when I turn it on. I don't know how fast it is, if it saves any time, but it's what I do and it seems consistent for me. The only thing you have to worry about is not turning around too fast, because then you'll be on the ghost spawn point. After catching that first ghost, you go down towards the bottom of the room, start spinning around where I do, and then you get to meet up with my personal least favorite ghost in the game, the purple punchers. Part of why I dislike them is the name. I mean, they're clearly pink, but whatever. Anyway, you catch him. This one's not a problem. It's just one ghost. Pretty easy. From there, you want to get to about the middle of the room, face down, and when both of the orange ghosts spawn, you wait for them to approach, and then when they're close, you move to the left and then turn around and get them both. It's a pretty easy double. In my opinion, this is actually the easiest double in the game to get, so I don't have any safe strats for that compared to what I do normally. Right after the easiest double in the game for me comes what is actually what I consider to be the hardest double in the game. They're right back to back there, so basically I try to get a consistent positioning, but for my fast strat I still am not consistent at it. If I start thinking about it, I always seem to miss it, but I will include a safe strat for this, so you don't have to worry if you are too intimidated by trying to get the ghosts this far apart. And I'll also include a backup strat for when you miss this. It's not too big of a deal. It's not a huge time loss if you miss it. When you're catching the last ghost, whether you're getting the double or you're just catching one because you failed at the double, you want to drag the ghost towards the door that's not open yet, but as soon as you catch the ghost, that door, the vines on it disappear and you're able to go straight through it to the next room. The backup strat here for the hardest double is pretty easy to get. It's basically a similar thing where your starting positioning is pretty similar, but you want to go down and to the left to that corner, and then the ghosts will get really close together and there's like no way you can miss the double from there. Well, I shouldn't say there's no way, it's definitely still possible, but it's much easier to do it this way compared to the other way. For the wardrobe room, what you want to do is you want to go straight for the wardrobe on the left. And you want to knock on that because there's a ghost in there, but you want to knock on a specific part of that wardrobe, because if you do that, then both of the ghosts will spawn at once and it'll be really easy to manipulate them into a double. If you knock on other parts, they'll spawn at different times, and I don't know if it actually loses time to get the double any other way, but when they spawn at different times, it throws off my rhythm, and sometimes I'll miss the double altogether that way. After that double, you want to go right next to the wardrobe you just opened, and you want to face towards the wardrobe. You don't want to be too high up on the wardrobe, you want to be more on the lower end of it, because if you're up on the high part of it, the banana ghost you're trying to get here won't spawn, and that's bad. But if you're standing in the right spot, he will spawn, and then you move up and push him towards the orange ghost spawning on the other side of the room, and when they're together, you can get the double from there. If you suck up the banana ghosts perfectly, you can take them out without them dropping any banana peels, but it's really difficult, and usually it's not a big problem if a banana peel spawns, because this is, well, depending on where it spawns, you can either suck it up before the next double, or you can just ignore it altogether because it's on the other side of the room and not an issue. For the third double, you do a similar thing as the second, except you're on the right wardrobe this time because the banana ghost spawns there. So then, when he spawns, move up, push him into the orange ghost, and you get that double, which clears the room and spawns the key. This key, well, it looks to spawn pretty quickly and drop. You actually can't grab it right away because it just won't move if you go for it right away. So this is a good time. If things dropped banana peels or hearts that might get in your way, you might as well just clear those out while you're waiting for the key. Once you vacuum down that key, you're ready to leave that room. Go backtrack to essentially where you're leaving the door from the room with the candles you put out, and then take a left from there, and once you reach that door, you'll start EGAD's text. Basically just skip through all that as fast as you can. You pretty much, if you're going to learn to speedrun this, you've probably already seen all of the text in the regular game and you don't need to really read it again. So then once you get through all that text, you go through the door, and Then your first door up, you just go through that one, and that's the study where Neville is. For him, he's pretty easy. You just go towards him, you face your back to him, you aim the vacuum up, and then as soon as he shows his heart, you'll automatically lock onto him. And he's pretty easy to capture. There's no real trick to one cycling him. It's just once you practice enough, you get faster and faster at the vacuuming. So really, you can't expect to vacuum like I do at the start of your speedrunning career, but hell, even I can't vacuum this fast consistently. This was just a lucky recording, but yeah, if you're slow at the vacuuming at first, I wouldn't worry about it. You get better. Now again, once you capture him, well, you want to capture him in a way that drags you towards where the chest spawns, and when the chest is spawning during the cutscene, you want to face towards the chest. Because this is the room where I got some example footage of what might happen if you're not facing towards the chest. If you spin towards the chest and open it really quickly, there's a chance it might not open. And I did that several times to give a good example of how it happens and how it's just kind of annoying. Fortunately, it is easily avoidable when you know how to avoid it. Basically, just if you're facing the chest, when the cutscene is over, you won't have this problem ever. After grabbing the key from Neville's room, you want to exit, go back into the hallway, and proceed to the far left, entering that door, which is Lydia's room. To catch Lydia, just open the curtain as fast as you can, and then I think for where you catch her, it's a matter of personal preference. I've seen people go to the bottom right, which is actually better for 100%, but for any percent, I personally prefer the top right part. To me, it's just easier to catch her there quickly. Once you catch her, drag her to about where the chest spawns here, and then open the chest. Then, when you do that, you exit, go back into the hallway, triggering the first cutscene related to Chauncey, which basically just shows off where Chauncey is. You can't miss the door, it's right across the hall. So then you go in that, and you're getting ready for the first boss now. For Chauncey, I will be showing two strategies for entering the Chauncey boss fight. The one that I use, which is the ball drag, and the one that I see some other people use more recently, which is the not ball drag. I don't really have a better way of describing that strategy. For the ball drag, you just get under the ball. Do not adjust the angle of your vacuum at all. You want to keep it where it is, and you want to vacuum towards the ball while backing away from it. You don't want the ball to actually get caught in your vacuum, because that messes up the strategy, and then you'll have to do a backup where you like lose the ball in the corner. If you do the ball drag right the way I do it, the ball will be somewhere around the bottom of the room, and then you shake the rocking horse to spawn Chauncey, and when he starts going towards you to attack you, you back towards the ball, vacuum up the ball, and if you did the ball drag right, you will be in a position where you can release the ball the exact moment you suck it into your vacuum, and it will hit Chauncey right away. It's nice when that happens. For the not ball drag strategy, as soon as you enter the room, you go straight for the rocking horse and you rock that. Then when Chauncey spawns, you go back towards where the ball is, you grab the ball, and to me this is a harder shot to make, but if you're good at aiming the vacuum shots, you should be able to hit Chauncey from there, and hopefully you don't miss, because missing is obviously a time loss, but it's not the end of the world. Just go towards wherever the ball lands, pick it up, and shoot it back at him. It's not too big of a deal as a beginner. Once you get some good area 1 times, it's kinda annoying to have that happen and kill a good pace though. After you get through Chauncey's text and his cutscene, you are in the first boss battle of the game. This is one of the things where some new strategies were discovered that weren't in the old tutorial, so I thought they'd be useful to show off here, even though personally I'm not that good at the second half of these strategies. But even failing the second half, if you fail it in a way that's not too bad, it still saves time over the old strategies, so it's definitely worth going for. It's hard to describe the positioning and all that of where you need to be for these strategies, but basically you just look at where I am in this video and try to duplicate the timing of when I move to the side. aim the vacuum where I'm aiming it, and obviously if your timing and everything else is the exact same as mine, you'll get the same result. And that result is catching the ball as soon as it spawns, which saves so much time if you do it right. On the first ball, I find it so much easier. Also, something I should mention here is when you're using your vacuum to get the ball from Chauncey, you want to actually hold L while you're holding R, because if you release R to shoot the ball at Chauncey, then you're still holding L, Luigi will still have his vacuum out, and you can just immediately tap R to lock back onto Chauncey, or to lock onto Chauncey and start draining his health there. If you aren't holding L, Luigi will take a second to put away his vacuum, and then when you press R again, he'll take it out, which wastes a bit of time. That same strategy of holding L is also useful for Bogmire, but we'll get to him. He's the Area 2 boss, so let's get to him when we get to him. When you're sucking up Chauncey, you ideally want to leave him with 50 to 60 health. You don't want to go below 50, because if you go below 50, he'll do a different cycle of rocking horses, which takes more time. And if you get him above 60 and you're not very good at suck-ups, you might screw up the 2 cycle, which will add even more time than the slow 2 cycle does. Given the choice between getting the slow 2 cycle and getting any kind of 3 cycle on Chauncey, the slow 2 cycle is obviously much better. So it's better to get too much health off him first cycle than not enough. After you're done draining his health for the first cycle, you want to head over to the right side of the crib, pretty much as far right as you can, and then you pretty much play the waiting game while he does his little attacks. It's like you can pull out the Game Boy Horror while he's doing the bouncing thing. I see a lot of people do it. Apparently it's like a lag reduction thing that saves very minor time, but it's a time save, so I do it. He bounces 8 times. He gives you plenty of audio cues for when to put away your Game Boy Horror, so you don't really have to worry about counting how many times he bounces. For the second cycle, you start out the same in that you dodge the first rocking horse on the right, but then for the left rocking horse, you actually want to get hit by that one, and there's a reason for that. It's basically because of the invincibility frames it gives you. So once you get hit by that, you want to go to about the middle of the crib, knock on that, which will prolong your invincibility frames, and then you pull out the vacuum. Again, hold L while you're doing the vacuuming. Hold L and R. And if you time, well, you want to aim your vacuum straight up, and if you back up at the right time, you will actually catch the ball right the instant it spawns, and you can launch it at Chauncey right then, and it is so fast and so amazing when it works out, but it's so hard to do for me, so I haven't even been able to capture footage of that for this video, honestly, unfortunately, but even when this strategy goes wrong, as long as you block the ball, you're still saving time compared to the old strategies. It's like when you block the ball, it will be right in front of you, and even though you're going to be stunned a bit, as soon as you can, just pull out the vacuum, shoot it at Chauncey, and then you should catch him on that cycle, and then that's pretty much it for Area 1, honestly. You walk towards the chest, you open it, you grab that key, and then after EGAD text, you're out of Area 1, and basically it's just text mashing and cutscenes before you enter Area 2. Remember to go back into the Hidden Mansion, of course.